welcome back to the channel. I have another Victory at Sea unboxing. I was able to pick this up Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend for 50% off, so I said why not. So what we're going to do is we're going to unbox the Regia Marina fleet, the Italian fleet starter. So of all of the fleet starters that are currently available, this will be the fifth unboxing of fleet starter that I've done, and that's all that's currently available retail. There is a French fleet that's available, but it's only direct through Warlord, and it's a little bit on the expensive side with shipping and everything else, so I'm gonna hold off on that one and wait and see if that one gets released retail or not. But I don't know a lot about the Italian fleet. I know that the Italians, they had morale issues. They had issues with communication between the Navy and the Air Force. They didn't communicate well at all, and they didn't support each other as well as they probably should have, which is probably one of the reasons why Italy did so poorly in the war. But they did have a decent sized navy, although their navy was really only intended to ever sail around the Mediterranean. It wasn't intended to go any further than the Mediterranean. To my knowledge, during the war, they never went into the Atlantic. I don't think they even went through the Suez Canal down into the Red Sea at all. So they didn't need the range that, say, American ships did, but they were still considered a pretty decent navy for the time. So why don't we get into this and see what we have. Again, I don't really know a lot about these ships, so we'll figure it out together. So there's the back of the box. So we are going to be getting 8 resin and metal model ships. We're going to get an aircraft carrier, a battleship, 3 cruisers, 3 destroyers, 4 flights, the ship cards, damage sliders, assembly and painting guide. Just what we usually expect, pretty much similar contents to the majority of the fleet starters. Now, I do know that the carrier in this was never actually finished. During the war, never saw a battle, so it's a little bit of a theoretical ship, although it was designed. So a little extra packaging here, which you don't always see. This was packed by Alice for us. Thank you, Alice. Alright, so we'll save the paperwork to last, and we'll get into the ships. Let's start with this one. This bag was also packed by Alice. Okay, so this is our destroyers and our flights. I know very little about the flights as well. These are fighter bombers, though. I can tell that from looking at them. And our destroyers. The metal bits we'll be getting, I think, in the biggest one. So a little bit of flash here, not quite as much flash as some of the really early American and Japanese starters, but a little bit. This is the little bit of darker resin, although it seems like they have cleaned up the manufacturer on it a bit. So let's see if we can get close-ups of these. these are Navigatori class destroyers. And like most of the other destroyers, there's not a ton to see here. If I'm seeing it right, it looks like there's a couple of pieces to add. It looks like there's a gun there. And again, a little bit of cleanup, but not too bad on those. And then on our flights, again, the differences in the details of these are so minor. These are RE 2001 Falco 2 flights. Again, I don't really know what that means, so I'm not going to sound like I do. Just going to check the fit on these rings. So the rings fit okay, better than my Japanese and American ones. Maybe not quite as good as the Royal Navy ones that I tried. I still might end up clipping this piece right here just to make it a little bit of a nicer fit. Alright. Now we will get into this pack here. This should be our cruisers. I believe that these are 3 different types of cruisers. I believe the Italians, I think, liked to, again packaged by Alex, liked to continually upgrade designs to a point where they became different classes unto themselves. So there's not a lot of multiple classes, multiple ships in a class, or there aren't, or if there are, there's relatively few. So we have 3 cruisers. Looks like we have a light cruiser and a couple others. Let's look at the light cruiser first here. There we go. And this is the Etna cruiser. You know, a little bit of flash there. Just light flash, easy to clean up. Nice and smooth on the bottom, smoother than some of the others that I've gotten, ships that I've gotten through Warlord, but very nice. Again, that looks like a pretty light cruiser to me. And this is the Luigi Cardona. There's it seems like around the smokestacks there is a fair bit of flash. Definitely some flash to clean up here. Some interesting details here, which are different, something different. A few secondary guns, not as many as on some other ships from other countries that we've looked at. This looks like it's probably the heaviest of the cruisers, but we'll see when we look at the cards. Let's see. This is the Pola cruiser. A few more secondary guns here, lifeboats, things like that. Very nice. Again, this is the lighter colored resin compared to the destroyers. And you might not show up on camera, but these two seem about the same color. This one is slightly, very, very slightly darker, but anything that's in this range, the resin seems really good. I wish these would come in the same resin. And then our last box. So we have all of our metal bits. I'm not going to take out every single metal bit there. Again, packed by Alice. There's just a lot in there. I don't want to lose anything. And this should be our battleship and our carrier. So we'll start with the carrier. This is the Aquila, or Aquila. Probably sounds like aqua or water to me, but I don't know. Even more flash in this one. This one has considerable amount of flash. A lot of it just peels right out. But lots of nice details in this one. I like this model a lot, even with the flash. Lots of nice little AA guns going along the side there. This is, I don't know what this is, catapult, maybe some sort of track. I think I've mentioned when I opened up the other battleship, all of the Italian ships have this red and white striping, probably for aerial identification. It wasn't unheard of for one nation's air force to bomb its own navy from time to time in World War II, so it was good to be able to aerially identify the ships. And then our battleship. This is the Conte de Cavour. So this is a relatively small battleship compared to all the other, even from other nations. This might be the smallest battleship that I have. Probably the next smallest might be the Warspite, but the Warspite I think is considerably bigger than this. So I think definitely the smallest battleship that I've seen. As far as the carrier goes, the carrier, it's a little bit smaller than the Japanese and the American carriers, but it's considerably larger than the, at least the physical model is considerably larger than the carrier that came with the Royal Navy. So let's put all these to the side and look at the cards. My favorite part of the game, because this is what makes it a game. The models are great, but being able to play them on the table is what, at least for me, that's why I'm purchasing it. I do know some people, not necessarily this game, but other games where people will purchase the models with no intention to play. So we have our instructions. So not too bad. The battleship does have a fair number of parts. That actually looks like, along with the 4 main guns, it looks like it's got 4 secondary guns as well that we're going to be attaching. The Etna doesn't have a lot. And the other cruisers and the destroyers pretty standard. Looks like the battleship is going to be the most parts anyways, not necessarily challenging. That I don't really figure out until I'm actually putting them apart together. Although some parts have proved more challenging than others. Then we have our damage sliders, which I don't use. We have our working with resin. Alright, so let's go through the cards here, see if I can zoom in on this. Alright, I'm not sure how visible that is, but that's about as good as I can do. So this is the Etna cruiser. So this is our light cruiser, flank speed of 60 points. That's a very cheap cruiser. There are destroyers in the game that are more expensive than that. Flank speed of 6, armor of 2, hull of 13 and 4, does have an armored deck, and it has radar. So radar is actually fairly valuable on a 60-point ship when it comes to scouting at the beginning of the game. I would guess that this would be a ship that you would want to put into your list almost exclusively for the scouting benefit. Not necessarily exclusively, but its guns are very light. They're not going to do a lot of damage. It has light guns. It looks like it has 6 5.3 inch guns with ranges of 5, 10, 15, and 21. 3 attack dice, -1 to armor piercing, 1 damage dice each. They're dual purpose and weak. They are not restricted though, so that's interesting. So that means you're going to get to use these. Oh, wait. So they're not restricted, but they do have a restriction on them. Only 1 attack dice may be fired into the front and 2 into the aft arcs. So you're going to be able to use all 3 dice from the sides, which if in restricted you wouldn't be able to, but you're limited in the front and the rear. And the AA battery is a local 2. Again, I see the biggest benefit of this guy being the radar for scouting purposes. And on the back, no refits. I believe that the Etna actually, so it's 1944 planned. It was under construction, but at the time that the Italians surrendered in 1943, it had not been completed yet. So it is interesting with the 1944 planned. I guess you'll have to talk with your gaming group or your friends. If you're playing a game for 1943, I guess the ship wouldn't be allowed, even though after 1943 the Italians were out of the war anyways. So here's the carrier. A little bit of an odd order for the cards here. Here's the carrier, 210 points. So not necessarily a cheap carrier. 6 inches, armor of only 1, hull of 57 and 19. It's a carrier, has radar, torpedo belt 2, can carry 12 flights, so decent. Has 8 5.3 inch light guns. They were 5, 10, 15, and 21, so basically the same light guns that the Etna has. 4 attack dice total, -1 to AP, 1 damage dice. These are restricted and weak, so we don't get the dual purpose, but we do get restricted here, which kind of makes sense because the guns would have been placed pretty much underneath the deck along each side, so it makes sense that you would only be able to fire half. It does have an AA battery of local 6, which is very good. Its real life stats, again 1943 planned, so there's not going to be any refits. So actually there is one refit here. So folding wing fighters. So I guess I will have to look at the rulebook, but I guess if you're only taking folding wing fighters, you will be able to increase the number of flights to 16 for 20 points. So that's interesting. So that would be very important if you're able to get 16 flights out of this. So I will have to look at the rulebook for that, for the folding wing fighters. That's interesting. Okay, then we have the Luigi Cardona class light cruiser, 75 points, so another cheap cruiser. It's a cruiser, 6-inch flak speed, armor of 2, 15 and 5 for hull, aircraft 2. So its 4 main guns are each one has 2 6-inch guns with ranges of 6, 12, 18, and 25. 1 attack dice each, -1 to armor piercing, 1 damage dice each. So not terribly powerful main guns. They are twin linked and fast track, which is helpful. Although I find cruisers are never going to be good at fighting bigger ships like battleships, and destroyers are so hard to hit that usually cruisers want to just be fighting other cruisers. I've found in the games that I've played. Our light guns, we have looks like 6 3.9-inch guns, 4-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch, 17 inches, 2 attack dice, -2 to AP, 1 damage dice for each hit, dual purpose and weak, so not restricted. Our AA battery is local 1, and we do have some torpedoes. We have a port and a starboard torpedo. Their ranges, our point blank is 2 inches. That's nearly impossible the way that the game rules are set up to get a point blank range with those. 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches. Basically, with the 2 inches, you would have to be almost touching base to base, side to side, with bridges pretty much at the exact same, level. They'd have to be right next to each other, and you might barely make the 2 inches there. But they have 2 attack dice each, 2 damage dice for each hit. They are devastating in one shot. So they're there. You can use them. Not super useful though. So this was originally commissioned in 1933. Again, a subclass of the Contaderi class. Again, the Italians were constantly refining their designs, which eventually pushed them into their own classes. Only 2 ships in this class. But we do have a couple of refits where we can either remove aircraft, and then this one in 1944 surrendered to the Allies and served as transport. Removed the torpedoes from -20. So that's interesting. I wonder if there's some sort of scenario that we can use that as a transport ship with the Allies. That would be interesting. Here's our battleship. These cards, I didn't reorganize them or anything. This is how the game, a lot less organized than in most of the sets that I've opened. Not a problem, just an observation. 370 points, so relatively cheap battleship, not surprising considering the size of the model. It is a battleship, 5-inch movement, 5+ armor, so not bad. Hull of 58 and 19. Has star shell. Star shell is an Italian keyword for the most part, and I can't tell you off the top of my head what it does. I think it has something to do with anti-aircraft, but I will have to get back sometime on that. Torpedo Belt 2. Its main 4 turrets are 3 12.6-inch guns, point blank 8 inches, 16 inches, 24 inches, and 32 inches. So at extreme, we can finally get to the horizon with this ship. So interesting. So it's different attack dice for each turret. So our A and our Y turrets are 3 guns each. The B and the X turrets are two guns each. So we have, for the A and the Y, we have 3 attack dice +1 to AP, 2 damage dice each, and then 2 attack dice +1 and 2 damage dice each for the middle 2 turrets. We have our light guns are 12 14-inch light guns. That 14 point, I think that's a typo. They are probably 4.7 inches, not 14.7 inches. There's no way their light guns are bigger than their turrets. It's 5 inches, 10 inches, 15 inches, and 21. 6 attack dice each, -2 to armor piercing. 1 damage dice each. They are weak and restricted. The other light guns, they're 8 3.9 inches, 4, 8, 12, 17, 4 attack dice, -2 to AP, 1 damage dice each. These are dual purpose restricted and weak. Our AA battery is local 3, so decent AA. So this was originally commissioned in 1915, rebuilt in 1937. There appears to be 3 ships in the class, and we do have a couple of refits here. That's just telling us that that's the one that we have. The Conte de Cavour was sunk in 1940. That's interesting. Now, in the game, if you're playing a 1943 game, you can still play that. At least, from my understanding, you can still play it. But obviously, there won't be any refits for it. In 41, this Julio Caesar removed the star shell trait, and you increase the AA battery to local 4 for +0. So that's interesting. And again, the Julio Caesar interned by the Alloys. So actually not a lot in terms of interesting refits there. Then our Zara class cruiser, 150 points. So this is in line with most of the other cruisers, not necessarily a cheap cruiser. Flying speed of 7, so that is a fast cruiser. Fastest ship that we've looked at so far in this. Armor of 2, hull of 27 and 9, aircraft 2. It looks like a couple of the classes, the Fiume and the Pola, reduced the hull to 28 and 9 from -5. I don't think that we are reducing the hull from 27.9 to 28.9. Obviously a typo probably in the FAQ, which I will have to look up at some point, figure out. I'm not going to do that right now. 4 main turrets. Each one has 2 8-inch guns, 9, 18, 27, and 37, so pretty decent range out of the guns out of this one. 2 attack dice each, no negative to the armor piercing, which is good. So it can hit, I mean, you only get 1 attack dice each, but if you can get a hit, you know, you a little bit better chance because we have no negative on those. No pluses either, but not too bad for a cruiser anyways. Light guns are 12 3.9 inch, 4, 8, 12, and 17. 4 attack dice, -2 to AP, 1 damage dice each, AA battery, local 2. And then originally commissioned in 1928. Looks like there are 4 in the class. 1940 we can add a star shell, so that's actually a positive for an Italian ship finally. And then 1942, then we can remove the star shell and increase the AA battery to local 3 for 0. So at least there's a little bit of a positive refit there. And then we should have 3 navigatory class destroyer cards, which we do. These are 35 points each, so on the cheap side for destroyers. Flying speed of 7, so these are going to be hard to hit because you're going to get a your opponent is going to have a -1 on their attacks for the if you move 7, -1 for the destroyer. The destroyers become pretty hard to hit pretty quick. Armor +1, hull of 5 and 2. These are agile and they have depth charges, so I guess they can hunt subs. Light guns of 6, 4.7 with ranges of 6, 12, 18, and 24. 3 attack dice each, -2 to AP, 1 damage dice each, and they are weak. AA battery is a local 1. We do have some destroyers. Torpedoes. is a destroyer that carries torpedoes. With ranges of 2, 4, 6, and 8, pretty tough. I'm comparing that to Japanese, which is the fleet that I've been running the most, which have insane torpedoes, so probably not that much difference than the other fleets other than the Japanese. 2 attack dice each, 2 damage dice each. They're devastating in one shots. So not bad considering the price for the destroyers. Not bad compared to others. Other destroyers in the game for other countries played. But thank you very much. I've got some work to do to get this Italian fleet up and running. But we'll get to that. So far we have our American and Japanese fleets up and running. But Italians will be coming. And I do have a little bit of Royal Navy as well that will be coming as well. But thank you very much for watching. If you think you might be getting into Victory at Sea, please give me a like and a subscribe. I'd appreciate it. It's always nice to know that somebody's watching and appreciating the videos. But otherwise, have fun, paint something, have some fun gaming, and we'll see you next time.